Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Game Dojo. I am your triumphant host, the Game Ninja, and welcome to 24K Gaming, Movies, and TV Show Reviews. Welcome to the month of October. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, Halloween month, and the 31 days of Halloween have started. We have done the Meg, we have done The Walking Dead. How could we not? This is long overdue. We're only doing the first 5 seasons because, in my opinion, those are the best. Sorry, you can split hairs, you can say what you want, you can go where you need to go. In my opinion, those are the best seasons, hands down. So, we're talking about Feast, not to be confused with The Feast. Feast. And wow, what can I say about Feast? Wow. It is a lot to absorb. If you've never seen it, spoiler alert, it is bloody and full of gore. It is a gore fest, the likes you haven't seen a lot. And when I mean overdone gore, I mean if somebody got like head blown off or chopped or something, there's somebody offset with a bucket of blood to just splash it on somebody. Like that level of that level of blood and gore. So know what you're getting into before you sign into it. There's also weird scenes because there's this movie, well, the series of movies. We'll talk about 2 and 3 later, but for right now we're going to talk about part 1. Part 1 has moments of wow, and I've never seen that before, and what the did I just watch? Matter of fact, there's a lot more of that one. A lot more of what the did I just watch? Some scenes, some magical scenes include the monster getting it on with somebody's face, the monster getting it on with themselves and having an instant baby, which I don't know where it came from. The over gratuitous use of maggots and slime, projectile bodily fluids, I think I can say. Alien projectile bodily fluids from copious amounts. Put it this way, it's not good. It's not good. Whoever, if the attempt was to gross out audiences, you did it hands down. Yes. It's almost like when they hit a disgusting gross out moment, they was like, well, we can one up that. And then the next scene, we'll just one up that. And then we'll one up that and one up that to the point where once you are in the main climax of this movie, you're like, where else can they go? Because it's some scenes. It's some scenes. Wow. All I can say is wow. I think one of the funniest things about this movie is when I got down to the end of it and I'm watching the credits, I saw that in the list of executive producers, it was Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Wes Craven. Yeah! Did not expect that. With the type of movie this was, did not expect Wes Craven, Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon, as well as the Weinstein brothers. I mean, well, the Weinstein brothers. They probably just signed off, but damn sure not Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Wes Craven. This was out there. This is out there where the buses don't run for them. But like I said, so the movie is contained in this one bar, kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. Well, From Dusk Till Dawn starts in different places and then brings it right back here, but it's definitely a Tarantino-esque feel to this movie. And like I said, the whole movie centers around this one bar area, so you're just wrapped around this one little area, and though it's very confined, they use it well. I say From Dusk Till Dawn because it feels almost exactly like that. Instead of vampires, it's freaky creatures. So there is an ensemble cast of people, most of which are going to be like, hey, isn't that from that other movie? And yeah, which is funny because I said it's a Tarantino-esque feel to this movie because one of the guys in this movie is from Zed's shop in Pulp Fiction. He's one of the aforementioned guys that how should we put this? Plays with Marcellus Wallace. You know, read between the lines. If you've seen Pulp Fiction, you know what I'm talking about. The Gimp scene, the basement scene. We don't want to ever go there, ever. But the guy who owns the bike shop, who calls Zed, is in this movie. He looks exactly the same. Maybe a little bit heavier, but almost dressed exactly the same. So I picked him out, and I was just like, for what he did to Marcellus Wallace, I kind of want to see him die. Really do. And a bunch of effed up scenarios of a bunch of effed up decisions, which leads to a bunch of effed up things happening to people. And when people come in, they give you their name and their bio like you're watching a DC Suicide Squad movie, and it's funny. It's absolutely funny. I mean, I get it. It's over the top. It's supposed to be gore fest, but the bios, heroin number 2, heroin number 1, thug, Wheels, the guy in the wheelchair, like, funny. Absolutely funny. It was a mindless gore fest. I would say other horror films were better, actually. To compare it to From Dusk Till Dawn, From Dusk Till Dawn is a much polished, finished form. It stuck the landing a lot better than this one did. But I'm not going to say it was a horrible movie. Part 1. We are talking about Part 1 because, you know what, let's just jump right into it. So, Part 2 and Part 3, though distributed by the Weinstein Company and the Weinstein Brothers, there is no Wes Craven attached to it. There is no Ben Affleck and Matt Damon attached to it, and it shows. So The Feast Part 2, Sloppy Seconds, basically is just an ensemble cast of... How can we put this? How can I really put this? They chose a bunch of characters that look like people you've seen before, stars. Like, for instance, the first one that went off to my mind was the guy who looks like Vern Troyer. And then they have a guy that looks like Herschel from The Walking Dead. And then they have a China-esque main biker character. And then they have a character that looks like... And then they have Cockroach from The Cosby Show. Can I start by saying the only ever time I've seen a throwback character in a horror film that literally threw me off that point was John Carpenter's Vampires 2. In John Carpenter's Vampires 2, which if you haven't seen it, John Bon Jovi is the Master Hunter in that one, the lead Master Hunter. And one of his, I guess one of his partners or other hunters is Eddie Winslow. For some reason, from Family Matters, Eddie Winslow is a vampire hunter. Yeah. So that happened, and you all let it happen. We're not talking about it again. But in this one, Cockroach from The Cosby Show is a used car dealer whose wife is cheating on him. And there are so many subplots spider-webbed into this thing. And then during some part of this movie, with all the gore and disgustingness, it literally just becomes a low-budget Skinamax porn fest. Matter of fact, when you come down to the end of this movie, there are just women fighting with no tops off, boobs and nipples just sticking out while they're shooting and fighting people. I don't know where the shirts went. And I know what you're saying. Rain, Game Ninja, are you really complaining about boobs in a horror movie? No, I'm not. But give me some reason why you're being attacked by creatures that you would have your shirt off. Even a dude. Like, these things have claws, they can infect you, they spew copious amounts of liquid on you that infect you and put worms in your skin. It's not the best time to take off your shirt. That's all I'm saying. Not that I'm complaining about the full gratuitous nudity of boobs being shown. I mean, hey, if grass is on the field, play through. I get it. But we're talking about a feast movie here. The first movie, zero nudity, none of that. This movie starts off basically in porn with people having sex and bodies being ripped apart, and there were lots of vagina shots and dong shots. There were just, and boob shots. They just went crazy. And like I said, Guys, I have nothing against nudity, full frontal, and horror movies at all. Do your thing, but have a plot that goes along with it. Step me into your freakdom. You know, don't just blah, and there it is. So the Feast Part 2, I couldn't really follow the story, and it goes again, like I said, with the protagonist looking to find who killed her girlfriend or sister. But the stupid part is these creatures are running around murdering everybody. So why are you hunting a human to kill when these things are killing everything regardless, including humans? Like, and then there's a scene where the weird doctor wants to study them, and he's cutting it open and it's spewing liquids, and not gonna go there. I'm just gonna say it was in poor taste. It was in poor taste. So I did not like Part 2. I watched it all the way through, unfortunately, but I did. I'm sorry that I did. Like I said, not even the nudity could save the movie. Unfortunately, I mean, you have nudity in Friday the 13th and like the older horror movies. Like, even the chick with the red hair, I think she was thrown in there to kind of give you that Return of the Living Dead feel with the chick with the red hair. It couldn't save it. It really couldn't save it. It couldn't save it at all. And then there were just stupid, horrible... Like the first one, not every CG shot landed, but it was believable and good enough. I guess the Wes Craven, Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon attached to it helped a lot. But the second one, they didn't have nobody at the helms like that. And they just went crazy with CG because some of the CG, wow, it made Mansquito look like an Academy Award winning movie. The Feast 3, so I should say the second movie kind of ends abruptly without an ending. So the third movie is basically part 2 to the second movie. They're one movie, but it literally takes off where the last one left off. And it's girl power. And then they go off into left field even further because you couldn't think you could go even further. But yes, they go even further, and pretty much almost everybody is murdered. And by the end of the Feast 3, the happy finish, there was no finish, and I felt like we were in Tromaville. I felt like it went from an actual polished film in Part 1 to a trauma film in Part 3. And I thought maybe that was the intention because they were just doing like crazy spinoff like Sharknado 6. But clearly not enough attention was paid in the later sequels as it was to the first one, which is bad because it had a chance to really tighten up and go higher and better. I mean, it's not like the first one was a masterpiece, but you could have done better with the second and third installments by learning what not to do, or at least the third installment, learning what not to do in the second installment, because there were just so many weird characters, so many random things, so many random lines. There was no acting. Like, I don't know what it was supposed to be. At one point I was just like, is this supposed to be like a snuff film? Is it supposed to be a low budget porn, like a Skinemax film, like the Emmanuel series, which had better sex and better quality? Anyway, so 2 and 3 is definitely off the list. Those are dog shit. They're less than copper. I wouldn't even give those a penny. What would I give them on my metal scale? Let me see something. I might have to go to Google Magic for this one. What is the most worthless metal? Protactinium. So protactinium is a radioactive chemical element with the symbol Pa with the atomic number of 91. It's dense, silvery gray actinide metal which readily reacts with oxygen, water vapors, and inorganic acids. It is the least value of all metals. Okay, so we've achieved a new rating here in the Game Dojo. So protactinium. So protactinium is what I give 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 on the scale on 24K scale, we cannot go gold, we cannot go silver, we cannot go nickel, we cannot go copper, we cannot go platinum. We have to dig down into the deep periodic table of any elements, and we're going to do protactinium. So protactinium is what part 2, feast part 2 and part 3 is. Now, as for part 1. Part 1, I give a copper rating. It's something to watch. It's definitely not going to win any Academy Awards. Gore wise, it's a gore fest, but I've seen the landing stuck better, and I've seen better stories wrapped up in gore. To give an example, Tremors. Tremors is always my go-to. Definitely not an A movie. It's definitely a B movie. It knows what it is. It knows what universe it is, but the fact that it knows what it is helps the movie out. Part 1 knows what it is, and it helps it out, so it's not as low as the Feast part 2 and 3. Part 2 and 3, I don't know what they were shooting for. I do not know what the mark was at all, but clearly there was no bullseye. So we give copper to the first part in Feast. Part 2 and part 3 is protactinium, which is basically the most useless metal, as what I'm told by Google Magic. But as a whole, the trilogy, what could I give a trilogy? Because if I mixed both of those ratings together, I'd end up with dog shit. So I'd have to say the trilogy as a whole would be dog shit in my book. Not much rewatchability for me. I wouldn't recommend it to too many people to watch. There are better movies out there, better horror movies out there. But if I was to suggest a Feast movie to somebody to watch, I would say definitely part 1. Forget about 2 and 3, though I got the trilogy. Forget about 2 and 3. Part 1 would probably be the best, and not probably, is the best in the trilogy. And I hope there's not a part 4 coming out on Horizon, or a reboot to the series. So yeah, The Feast, the second movie in our Halloween 31 Days of Halloween movie reviews. So far, not doing too good. The Meg wasn't really good. The Meg was nickel. The Feast part 1 was copper, and part 2 and 3 is protactinium. I had to look that up. Hopefully we'll have better shots with the third installment for our 31 Days of Halloween. So thank you for joining me. I hope you got a little bit of a heads up on this movie if you decide to watch it this Halloween month, or if you make it to Halloween and you're looking to cram an all-night session of horror movies. Leave Feast 2 and 3 off the list. I'd go for part 1. Part 1 is okay to put on your list, but definitely not 2 or 3. Definitely not. Thumbs down for 2 and 3. And if you're going to binge watch the trilogy, I wouldn't recommend eating, and definitely not mixed company. Nobody under the age of 18, or definitely no pastors or reverends, especially for Feast 2 and 3. 2 and 3 go there. They go there unapologetically. You'll see what I mean if you ever watch them. But hey, to each his own. Some people, that's your thing. Just for me, here in the Game Dojo, we ain't about that. So, from the Game Dojo, thank you for joining me. It's been another fun one, guys. And this is what we do. Let's look forward to the 31 Days of Halloween as we go into the horror season. Onward and upward with better, stronger, more horrific movies. By the way, the sound that you're listening to in the background is Camden's own Phil B. Jackson. You can look him up on YouTube. He is awesome, and he was my inspiration for the background music of why I was doing the Feast trilogy. So, on to the next, shall we? From the Game Dojo and the Heart of Gamer Nation, thank you for joining me in 24K movie reviews and television. This has been the Feast trilogy, and we say you can do better. I'll check you guys out later.